Welcome to Leaders of Life Sciences, the podcast where we spotlight the people shaping the future of pharma and biotech. Each episode, we speak with founders, senior execs, scientists, and strategists about how they lead, what drives them, and the real impact they're making on teams, organizations, and the lives of patients. If you want fresh insight into what great leadership looks like in life sciences, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. Rick, welcome to the show. Pleasure to have you on.
Thank you very much. It's nice to be here.
Thank you for taking the time out of your busy golf schedule to come and talk to us today. Rick, for the benefit of the listeners, do you mind just giving a bit of an introduction to yourself, who you are, what you do, and how you ended up in the role you are at Cineos now?
No problem. My name's Rick Shalaby. I am responsible for Cineos' global commercial footprint. It's about $1.5 billion. Help pharmaceutical companies bring their products to market, either whether it's clinical or whether it's commercial. Our clinical side's $3.5 billion, our commercial side's $1.5. I've been doing this about 30 some years in various companies. Started with Merck for 18 years, all commercial, marketing, sales, managed care, analytics, operations, all of it. And then went to some small companies, built them, sold them, and then came back here because the woman who was the CEO asked me to come back. I turned her down initially because I did not want to come back to a big job. I was fine putting kids on the bus and consulting with a couple of clients and playing a little bit of golf, but she's very persistent and would not let go. So I came back. My 5th year anniversary here, which is a long time for me, is in a couple of weeks. So yeah, so that's kind of how I got here.
Happy 5 years.
I think so. It's been a little bit rough. I was on the commercial side for the first couple of years running global business development, which is sales. Then they moved me to clinical, and I did 3 jobs on the clinical side, ending up in running all of clinical business development globally. And then came back to the commercial side where I'm responsible for all of our numbers here. And a lot of pressure, but that's okay. As long as it's, stress is bad, William.
Say again, stress is bad.
Awful.
I'm sure those rounds of golf help to solve it. Rick, for the benefit of everybody here, do you mind giving us a bit of an idea of what brought you into the life sciences space in the first place?
Okay. My father was a scientist, a couple of PhDs, invented or had 138 patents, all in the life sciences space. Polymers, resorbable sutures. He's on the first 2 patents of those from J&J back in the day, back in the 70s. My older brother's an MD, PhD. My youngest brother is the chairman of medicine at Philadelphia, the oldest hospital in the country. So you kind of don't have much of a choice, right? So when you come out of that kind of family, you go into something like that. I don't have the attention span to be a physician, but I find that this has been a nice thing for me for 30-something years, right? So the thing about, and I do have, like I said, shortest attention, but you can focus on many, many things, right? So people talk about ADD or anything like that as sometimes it's a hindrance. Not if you know how to deal with it, right? So I have a list of 20 things on my right-hand side that I keep that I have a good memory. So I just kind of go through every single project. And because it's the differences of the projects and the jobs are all very eclectic and very unique, that keeps me rolling. So it's exciting to have more stuff. So we were joking earlier about thank you for the time. I was going to say I got nothing to do, right? But I do, but there's just a lot of stuff going on. So you kind of get into the life sciences when you've got that kind of pedigree. So that's where we are.
Yeah, nice. That's an interesting topic, given how front of mind a lot of this sort of ADD, ADHD is at the moment. But perhaps that's something we can touch on a little bit later, and some of the mechanisms you use to, I guess,
Sure.
Keep your attention on all those things. But before we go into that side, what is it that continues to, I guess, light you up and be passionate about what it is that you do?
Well, we have a lot of our work's in oncology, cancer. A lot of our work is in new stuff, epilepsy, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, things that don't have suitable treatments, right? So when I was at Merck back in the early 90s, cholesterol, there's many drugs for that now, hypertension, antibiotics. I mean, I don't want to say they cured them all, but they have stuff now that they've had for a long, long time. So now what we're getting into are these kind of stubborn diseases that have not been able to go anywhere. And because Most companies are focused there on the specialty side, smaller side. We're starting to see major breakthroughs. Merck is one of them with Keytruda. It's the biggest drug in the world, going off patent in 3 years, to their chagrin, but going off patent in 3 years, which is going to spawn all sorts of biosimilars that are going to make things less expensive, right? So now that it's becoming cancer's what they're focusing on, there's so many more things. So for me, it's rewarding to do that, right? It's rewarding to be involved in. I launched Merck's first HIV drug back in the day when there was nothing.
Amazing.
So that was an experience. Like, we had just been in cardiovascular, and they said, hey, can you help us sell this HIV brand? We don't know much about the market. So sure, perfect, right? So I learned an enormous amount in that specific area. I tell you one thing I learned in HIV is you can't just dabble. You have to be in it, right? The community is very vocal. The community is very committed. So if they see that you're kind of fake, you're not going anywhere. So we jumped in with both feet. And it was a great experience for me. I ended up on the West Coast running our West Coast teams, which was fantastic. I grew up on the East Coast. I'd never get out there if I didn't take the job. So I've just enjoyed it. It's been a long career. I know you're thinking, William, God, that guy doesn't look that old, but I am. It's been a lot. It's been a lot of fun.
We
What's
said
this
before, yeah, the audience, for the benefit of the audience, before we jumped on, Rick was asking how his hair looked, and I said compliments will get you a good way, a long way in life. So no, Rick, you definitely don't look that old.
I appreciate that. Leading the question.
With everything that you've had a long career. You've seen a lot of different parts of the industry, and being part of companies that are built and sold, first HIV drug, things like that. How has that shaped the way that if we're looking at like leadership philosophy and leadership style, how have your experiences shaped your kind of philosophy on leadership?
So I'll tell you, you can't forget where you came from, right? And I find that there's a lot of leaders at the executive level that do, and they don't know what it's like to get back into the trenches, right? So when I get a call from one of our BDers, and it happens all the time, I have a whole, can you get on a call with us? Invariably, well, not invariably, but quite a few times, it's people I know from the business because I've been around. I never say no, right? I'll get on the phone with anybody that they want me to get on the phone with, and because I've done most of the jobs that these people are doing, I can empathize. I know exactly what they're dealing with, whether it's a small company, mid-sized company, or large company. I've done all of it, so I know what it was like to have to deal with budget problems. I know what it's like on every Thursday when the sales numbers come in and they're not where they need to be, and the CEO is breathing down your neck. I know what that's like. So when I'm talking to some of these guys and gals and they're lamenting the fact that I can't get my numbers moving, and I go, what's the day that you get the numbers? They say Thursday. I go, oh, Thursday's awful. You don't sleep on Wednesday night. But I know that because I've been there. So I think because I've had such a broad-based experiential background, I'm able to connect with these people. And I think sometimes when you have leaders at top levels, they forget about that. And they kind of just tell people what to do. That doesn't really work if you want to be successful long term. It just doesn't. And people aren't going to be dedicated to you. They're not going to run through walls for you. And that's what I think is the difference. If you're real and you're genuine, ultimately that leads to success because people will do what you want them to do, and they're all going in the same direction because they believe in you as a leader. Sometimes people just lose sight of that.
Interesting. That thing that you mentioned there about telling people what to do. Like, what do you see as the key challenges that someone would see if they're in in that seat at the moment and they are just telling people what to do? What are the symptoms of that?
If you tell people what to do, but you don't explain what's going to happen if you do it, that's a problem, right? If you tell people, hey, I need you to go run through that wall, but you don't tell them, hey, I need you to go run through that wall because on the other side is this, and if you get that, we can do this, and then we can do that, then they'll do it, right? So I just did a town hall last week. I think there's 26,000 people that are potentially, Cineos has 26,000 employees. So I'm on the call. I do my thing, and then someone asked me a question. And the question was, why do you think we'll be able to win in a very competitive market more than our competition? Because we're the market leader on the commercial side. And I started off with a very serious, our solutions are more sophisticated. And then I just stopped and I shrugged my shoulders. I go, we're just better. Yeah, we're just better. We have more experience. We've done this more times. Our people work harder. That's really what it was. I had more comments on that one comment around we're just better. And why are we better? We have more experience and we work harder. So my father was an immigrant. He came over here with nothing, and you kind of had to go get it. So when somebody told me I needed to do X, when I was junior, my very first question was, William, I think what you're getting at is why? Why do I need to do that? And if my boss didn't tell me why, I probably wouldn't be so psyched to do it, right? But my boss, when I got out of graduate school, was great. So he would go, Shalaby, do this. This is why. Bip, 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 bip. So I did it. And I learned a lot by doing that. He was a great leader. Some leaders would just say, do it, and no reason. Why would I do that? Why would I jump into the fire if you're not telling me why I'm doing what I'm doing? So I think you have to, when you're communicating with your people, you have to remember that you used to be there and what they thought when their leaders spoke to them. I find that you can connect with a lot of people like that.
It sounds like the old sales adage, tell them why and then they buy.
I would say
it rhymes, so
yeah.
it must be true, right?
Found it on the internet. Got to be true. I think that's fair. I think that's fair.
Yeah, nice. So for you, when you come to, so that's your philosophy on leading teams. Make sure there's a clear rationale as to why people are doing it, getting that buy-in, connecting it with what matters to them and what matters to the team and the growth, etc. What are you looking for in return? So if you're speaking to the people that are in the teams doing the doing, like what are you looking for people in your teams?
It's very simple, right? So there's three things, and I've mentored. I can't even tell you how many kids I've mentored over the years, right? Number one rule is just don't be a jerk. Number one rule to anybody. It doesn't really do you any good long term at all, right? It might feel good, even if somebody deserves it, but in the long run, it's not a real good strategy, right? So don't ever do that. Don't blow by people because you don't think they're important. I went to get a pair of pants this weekend. It's a funny story. Young lady was, I would just finish volunteering in town. My son has this National Honor Society thing, so we have to do hours. We're hanging flower baskets in town. That's what we're doing. And I got a baseball hat, pair of Carhartts, and a t-shirt. I walk into this place. I got a wedding at the end of the month. I got to get a pair of pants. She looked at me like, what are you doing? Like I'm just some guy who came off the street, got the pair of pants. And she looks at me, she goes, those are $200, sir. And I went, okay, can I buy them? But the point is, she didn't think much of me just by the way I looked. Can't look by people. You just can't look by people. But when you asked, the question was, what do I expect in return? That's rule number 3. Just get up and go to work. That's all I expect. If you put in a full day's work, you'd be amazed at how many people don't. So if you just get up and go to work every day, Woody Allen said 90% of life is just showing up, right? So if you just go to work every day, I don't need you to go 7:30 to 6:30 at night every day, but just put in a good day's work, solid day's work, and then you'll reap the benefits of it. Every team I've ever had, that's all I've ever asked. Just go to work. It's not hard. I'll teach you what to do, but you got to go to work and do it. And if they do that, generally speaking, it always works out. There's always going to be something that does some force majeure or something happens and it doesn't work out well. But generally speaking, if you get up and go out and work, it's going to turn out pretty well. That's how I was brought up. So that's what we do. And I haven't stopped that. And so when people as a leader, when they see how hard that I go and where I'm all over the place meeting with all these people, they don't want to let me down as a leader. So they do the same thing. So my groups always work harder than most groups because they just know that's the example that I provide. And that's what they do. And all of our leaders from the top down do the same thing, or they don't stay, quite honestly. We need people that are going to be dedicated to it. It's just hard enough to win in business as it is. Having to deal, if you have to deal with people that are lazy, it's just going to be a tough go. Not much. Just get up and go to work.
What would you say is the biggest barrier, if you like, for people that you notice, for people that are the doers and they go get it, versus the people that perhaps don't put in the same shift, they don't have that same work ethic? Are there patterns you notice in the people that are willing to go get it and those that perhaps don't bring that same kind of energy or effort or graft or resilience? Like what do you see
as the difference in those people?
Yeah.
Who doesn't? It's funny. You can kind of tell, like immediately when you hear people's backstory. I ask lots of questions when I meet people. I want to find out where they went to school, where they grew up. It's always the first question. I think it's the first question I ever asked you. Is like, where are you from, right? Just to kind of to try to figure out what people are all about. I generally find that people that have been handed everything their whole lives don't necessarily work as hard as I'd like them to work. Some of them do, but a lot of them don't. It's the people that were not handed anything, the grinders, I think, those are the ones that work. And when you find people like that, you reward those people disproportionately when they win. And then you don't reward the people that just think, hey, why don't I went to this great school, why are you not paying me this much money? I find that people that haven't had everything handed to them are the ones that I want. People that don't have a net, right? There's no choice. You have to do well, or you're not going to have the best life. Those are the people that I want. So when I interview people, and I interview people all the time, those are the questions I ask. Like, what'd you grow up? Tell me, how was school? Did you like it? Or that kind of thing. Even if they're older people, tell me a little bit about, how your work ethic is. And you can kind of sift through the rubble and figure out who are those people. Sometimes you miss, but I don't necessarily, there's no secret sauce or perfect thing. I just find that when you don't have a net, when there's no safety net for you, those are the ones I want. Those are the people that work hard.
I was speaking to somebody earlier today who was talking about hiring less for experience, if you like, and less for what's on the resume, on the CV, and a much stronger movement towards hiring for impact and the difference that you've made, and where you have gone through difficult situations. How do you approach your interviews on interviewing for skills versus interviewing for impact versus interviewing for results? How do you look at that?
I wish it were really easy to ask 5 or 6 questions and figure out whether people are going to work out. I've been around a long time, so I kind of get the joke when it's with people. I'm good with people, but generally I ask is, what are your numbers? How'd you do it? Like when you were running that, what happened, and how did you get it done? Because once you start digging into how you did it, if they kind of go down some trail, you're like, that can't possibly work. Then they're kind of faking it, right? But if they say something like, well, I kind of ran into this person here and I kept the relationship up. Then I followed up. I did this, I did that. Then you kind of think, okay, that's what it's all about. I got my job at Merck. 91, I had, between undergrad and graduate school, I had a painting company. That's what I did. The guy that I painted with was my oldest friend. He was actually at dinner here last night. So I've known the guy since the 6th grade. I went to the estimate. I always wore a button-down shirt, and college kid. Guy hired us. We painted his house. He starts talking to me on the ladder. He goes, hey, you ever heard of Merck? Never heard of it. What are you doing after graduate school? I said, well, at that point, all of my buddies went to Wall Street. That's what they did. He said, you should think about Merck. So I got my job painting his house. Right? I mean, I had a great undergrad. I had a great graduate school. But I got the opportunity because I painted his house and I did a good job. And I was there for 18 years. And so you have to take advantage of your opportunities. I look for stories like that. So if somebody has a story where they kind of figured something out when other people didn't, those are the people that I want. Not, hey, my dad got this, or they gave me this job. I'm not looking for that. I know we need grinders out there. It's a very, very difficult market. It's a very, very difficult job. One of the things I said on the town hall was, this is not an easy job. You make it look easy, not easy. You get a lot of no's before you get to yes. You just got to keep rolling, and eventually you get there. And once you win one time, then you know you can win. And then you just keep going, right? So you have to get them to the point where they win. That's why you spend a lot of time. I spend a lot of time with these people to get them to win.
I love
Once
that.
they feel how that is, then I can kind of push them out, and then they get it rolling just by themselves. So it's the time that you spend with those folks to get them, I guess, all the way home, I guess, as you would say, it's worth it, because what you get after that is just, you get it in spades.
Yeah, awesome. Awesome. I mean, you've mentioned there about it being a difficult market, Rick, and I know we touched on this a couple of weeks ago when we first spoke. How do you approach a market like this? How do you advise your people to approach a market like this?
Once again, it's all about empathy, right? So when someone, I got a call about 2-3 weeks ago from someone who I've known in the past, and they want to launch a brand. They were trying to get a partner company involved, couldn't do it, so they want to launch a brand. So they called me and said, hey, can you help us do this? We need to do it quickly. The board meeting's on Monday. So I put my best people on it. And they came back with some ridiculous price. And I said, you can't, they're not going to do that. I said, you got to bring it down. Bring it down to a level that they think is reasonable. They already told you what they thought was reasonable. If you go in there too high, you're never going to get it done. What do I want them to do? Empathize with where the client is. Empathy. If the client had $50 million to do this, this would be real easy. They don't. So you already know what the number should be. Meet them. Or maybe it'll be a little bit more because they don't exactly know where they are, but you have to empathize with them. You have to think about what it's like to be in their shoes. They're under a crunch. They didn't get the partnership that they wanted to get, so now they have to launch it themselves, and they're behind. So what can we do to get them back up to speed? And what can we provide them to be in front of the board to say, I need this? So I find that when you do that, you win more often. If you push people to say, I need to get another 50 million in sales, it doesn't work. Then they'll do anything they can to get the sale. The margin might be low. They might put something out there that they're not going to win. People will get desperate. It's a fine balance between what do I do price-wise that's going to provide us with a reasonable profit, but what can I do with them so that they can actually do what they want to do. There's someplace in the middle. The more communication we have with the client, the better we are. I happen to know the person that runs commercial, so it's not hard in that situation to kind of just have a candid discussion. But if you don't do that, you're not going to win, right? So we sent it over Friday. We'll find out today, Monday, because the board meeting I think is today or tomorrow, and then we'll find out Thursday. So something like that. So
there's a lot of making sure you're working really closely with the client. It's not just a case of chasing the number. You need to. I think one thing that was interesting when we spoke as well in the lead up to this was you talking about, and you hear a lot of this in sales and social media sales and all the little snippets and sound bites around finding a solution for clients or working with clients towards a solution, solving their problem. Tell us a bit about, I've heard it in snippets, but I've heard it with real world application from you, Rick, when we spoke before. So tell us a little bit about what your philosophy is around that and in terms of making sure you're solving a problem for the client.
So the number one thing is you got to figure out what the problem is, right? So they might think they have this issue, and I hear it. That's why I spend a lot of time on the phone with you. I'm like, what are you trying to do? And they said, da-da-da-da-da. And they'll go, well, we need this. I said, I don't know. I'm not sure if you need that. You could do it this way, this way, this way, this way. And now with like AI and secondary market research analytics, we're able to more closely put and less expensively put together a solution that they might not know anything about. We have to remember too, William, is that we have to be on the cutting edge of everything because let's say we have 200 clients, right? There's going to be one client that knows a lot about X. We have to know just as much as they need to know on everything. So not every client knows every single thing, but one client is going to know this level, I mean, we have to be experts in everything because we have to match where the clients are. So when someone comes to us traditionally and says, I this is all I've ever done, I put people in the field, I've done this, I've done that, we sit back and we're like, well, yeah, but now that you have the social side, now that you have analytics where you can go straight to the person digitally, maybe you don't need as many people, which are expensive. You need people, but maybe you don't need as many. And in these markets where you can't do X, we want to do this. In these markets you can't do Y, we can probably do that. So our solutions are much more sophisticated than where they are. So you could get the same, we have all sorts of case studies to show that this works, right? So you can get them to where they want to go and they can save money. And when you're trying to deal with a chief commercial officer who's dealing with the board and you can provide them a little nugget that's going to make them look like $1 million in front of the board, then they'll call you. I get text messages over the weekend from these people. Like, hey, I was like, yeah, I'll talk to you Monday. No problem. But at 9:30, I'm talking to William. So I don't want to talk to anybody. So that's what I'm doing. But after that, I'm good to go. But it's the more communication and the more ideas you could throw at them. I just said this in a pitch the other day. I said, I'm going to have about 10 ideas. You might think 3 of them stink. Maybe you've done 4 of them already. But then maybe there's 3 that you haven't thought of that are pretty good. So you can either not listen to anything I say, but I'm just going to tell you what I think because I've done this a long time. And generally speaking, when you tell people that, the first thing when you tell someone from a company that, hey, I've got some ideas, they immediately go to, well, you don't think I've thought of that. So that's why you have to pull it back and be like, look, I got all sorts. You don't have to listen to any of them. But consider, if I give you 10 and I get a 30% hit rate, that's 3 ideas you didn't have before. So just take a peek. That's all I'm at. You don't want to do any of them? Okay. But I'm just trying to do my job. And when you put it that way, you're not taking a superior conversation. People will generally digest it properly, and they appreciate it because you don't make them feel stupid. That's not good for sales. Making your client feel like they don't know anything is probably not a good practice long term. So it's all about communication ultimately, and gaining. I have credibility. This is what I think, and maybe that comes with gray hair. Who knows? But that's what I think.
Nice. And I'm going to come back to your sort of tagline, if you like, is don't be a jerk. And
It's gonna be the name of my book, William. I think I'll
we'll go a little bit of a step further, and I'll give people context. Is when I asked you about coming on the podcast, your question was, "Will it help you?" And I said yes, and you were like, "Well, I'll do it then." And so, don't be a jerk. I think is a very low level, or a very, you're underselling it, right? There's more to this, because, and this is a trend that I've noticed in interviewing people at a more senior level, is there's so much about giving back. There's so much about bringing value to the table. So talk to us a little bit about that side of the philosophy. Let's take it up from don't be a jerk. Like, what's your, in terms of how you treat people, and why you do it that way?
So, all right. So I was in Europe about a month ago, right? And we have, I don't know how many people we have in Europe, but so I sent a note out. I said, "Hey, I'm going to do 3 hours of a session. I want people in there. I don't want it too massive because I can't. I mean, I can handle 60, 70, 100 people. It's fine, but I can't do the personal stuff. If it's more than 10, it's difficult." So they took 10 slots, 10 people grabbed them. So we sat there, we started talking, we started ripping through their accounts. And there was this young lady there, I actually did this last week. There's a young lady in there who was very quiet. And I thought to myself, why is she one of the top 10 people that they wanted into this meeting? So I started talking to her. I started, shifted over here. And then I went to the other side of the table and I said, "So tell me your whole thing." So we started talking and I was just giving her some pointers. I said, "Do me a favor. Can you get on my calendar? Can we do every 3 weeks? Can we do maybe a half an hour, 45 minutes, or we can just kind of talk? Is that cool?" She looked at me. She goes, "Are you kidding?" And actually, she's English. That's how you sound. And I
It's a
said,
good accent. I like it. Good
"I'm
effort.
working. Thanks." So I said, "Yeah, I have plenty of time for you. So just get it set up, right?" So all the other people in the room were thinking, "I should have done that." But so I had my first talk with her last, I think it was Friday. It's been a couple days ago. So we just started talking through all of her stuff. And then it was just like, look, she was very successful. She had a baby. She took a year off. Now she's back. So her relationships, and she spent a lot of time, she did not keep up, which is fine. Raising children being a mom is the most important thing ever, right? So I'm glad she went away. I'm glad she took her time. I'm glad she got the kid on the right path. But now she's back. The relationships that she had were not maintained, so she's nervous. She's a little scared. The entirety of that call was about getting her confidence back up to where it was, telling her she was great, and then saying, "Let me know if you need me to get on any calls with you. I'm more than happy to do that." So I guarantee you, I will get some email this week that'll say, "Hey, can you get on the phone with this client with me?" No problem. So the reason why I do that, one, I liked her personally, right? She's a nice person, right? Second thing is, I need her to start rolling. I need her to get back into it more quickly. Who's better to get her back up to speed than me? I don't think anybody. Plus, she knows how busy I am, and I'm taking the time to do that. So she knows it's very important. Another byproduct of this is once we win with her, it's going to rip through the organization that she got on the phone with me and we kind of hung out and did this thing, and now she's another one of the people on my one-on-one sheet. I mean, I must do 25 to 30 conversations a week with people easily. Just what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? It's mentally a little draining sometimes at the end of the day. But, don't be a jerk, really, as you said, it's a pretty low bar, but you got to be nice to people too. It doesn't do me, I have a line I say to lots of people all the time. I go, "It doesn't do me any good for you not to do well." It just doesn't. The faster I can get you up to speed, the better off we're all going to be. So I'll take the time. I just met our brand new head of HR the other day, and he was asking me all sorts of questions. I said, "Look, call me if you have any dumb questions that you don't want to ask anybody because you think they might think they're dumb. Call me." And he goes, "Why are you being so nice to me?" And that's when I said, I go, "Look, it doesn't do me any good to have you not do well. If you're still kind of kicking around trying to figure out where the bathrooms are 5 months from now, that doesn't do me any good. I need you on point now. So anything that I can do to get you moving in the right direction more quickly, that's what I'll do." And I never met the guy. I met him last week, and he couldn't have been happier to see me, right? But that's all you got to do. right? The thing that really let me see, what's a good word? Sucks is most people don't do that. So I'm different just because I do that, which blows my mind. Because, I mean, it's a bummer that nobody does that, but it makes me look better. But I don't know why people don't, but they don't. And if you
Mm.
take the time to do that with people, because it doesn't happen all the time, doesn't happen very often. They'll hold you in such high esteem when they have the 5,000 conversations that they have. Then they talk about, oh, Rick helped me out when I first got here and did it. I mean, there's stories, there's thousands of stories, just helping people out. Just what do you need to do? What do you need? I've got a million of them, and ultimately they're all very positive. And if you want people to think about you, you want them to be positive. You don't want them to be negative. Because this is a business where people leave companies and they go to other companies. And I've had this one kid who's worked for me 4 different times before, so worked 4 different companies. I like to think that's got something to do with I treated him properly. I can guarantee you if I didn't treat him properly, he would not be at 4 different companies. So, and he's fantastic. So I just think it's not a hard thing to do, William. I just don't know why people don't do it, but they don't.
Nice.
They don't.
There's been a few pieces of sort of practical, tangible advice here. I think people, when they listen back, make notes throughout, and there's some things here people can take an action. If you were giving advice to people in their careers at the moment on the trajectory towards leadership or want to be on that path, what advice would you be giving?
Number one piece of advice I'd provide people is be sincere and or genuine, right? People see through it. I have people that we just hired this person and they immediately want to have lunch. I'm like, like, bro, slow down, right? No, do some time, and then we'll do that. He's got a couple of layers where he can deal with, and it's fine. I don't mind it, but I don't find that he's genuine. So if I had somebody who was like, Rick, can we get on the phone? No problem. I don't have time to go to lunch. I don't have time for that, right? I mean, if I'm eating on a call, eating on a meeting, that's probably a normal day for me, right? Because I just don't have
Okay.
time. I'm back to back to back all day, all day. It starts at 6:30 because of Europe, and it just goes all day, right? But if you're not sincere, if you're not genuine, when you had me on the phone, and the person that sent you my way, I like quite a bit. She helped me out. Now, did I deliver the mail for her? 100%, right? But did she help me out when I needed it? Yes, she did, right? So if there's anything that she would need, I'll help, right? It's not hard, right? I'm committed to her long term, and I have helped her quite a bit. She helped me too. But the thing I liked about you, all you're asking me for is an hour? I can't give an hour? What kind of a jerk am I if I can't give you an hour? And you're a pretty good guy. So that's why I asked you at the very end of it. Then you hit me with a, hey, we want to do this. And my question to you simply was, will it help you? And I could tell by your response, yeah, no problem. No problem. Make it Monday morning when things are a little light, but that's okay. It's not a problem at all. But if you're not genuine, if you weren't genuine, I wouldn't do it. And after doing this for a long time, life for a long time, doesn't just have to be in my job, just personally speaking, and people I deal with on a day-to-day basis around here. You figure it out very, very quickly. I don't have time for people that are trying to play me. And I don't have time for people that just want something from me and don't want to provide it back. When I was in graduate school, the very first question at my organizational behavior, what was the guy's name? Mike Bowen, I think his name was. He said, is life a transaction? And I was like the youngest guy in my graduate school class. I was wearing a baseball hat and a Who t-shirt. Probably not appropriate for where I was going to school, but that's all right. So I said, yes, it is. And then some of the older folks kind of gave me the great. And I looked at him and said, who's talking about money? I never said anything about money. If I open the door for you and you say thank you, that's a transaction. That's how I look at it, right? So I will do whatever you need me to do to help you, but all I need you to do is be happy and just be grateful that I'm helping you out. I don't expect you to give me anything, but down the road, if you see me on the side of the road and my tires, I got to change my tire, hopefully you stop and help me out. But I just find that, all of these things about treating people properly now, because you never know what's going to happen later, it's just so much easier to go through life like that. I don't understand why people don't. I really don't.
I think the book that comes to mind, and this was recommended by, so we dropped a podcast today with Tracy Rockney, and she mentioned this book on the podcast, and it was one that keeps coming up, is The Go Giver. It's a great little parable. So if anyone's listening in and wants to go and read on this kind of philosophy a little bit more, rather than being a go-getter, it's the go-giver. You go and
Yeah.
take value out in the world, give to people, and it's the way the world works. Is you're going to get back.
I mean, I got to tell you, when I think about how my life has turned out, there's kind of no way it turns out like this if I wasn't like that. And now I have the benefit of looking back at some of my classmates from undergrad or graduate school, and I think about, God, they were so much smarter than me, or they were so much this or so much that. It didn't really amount to much, really. It just, if you learn what you learn, but the way you treat people is the difference between you and everybody else. If you treat people properly and you treat people with respect, irrespective of who they are, right? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You treat everybody with respect, and ultimately that will lead to it led to a better life for me. You know, I don't know if it always, it's not a one-to-one relationship, but it seems to have worked, right? So generally speaking, that's what I try to do. And I'm not perfect, and I'm not, every once in a while I kind of get annoyed with people, and, well, actually more than, more than every once in a while, but I try to do the best I can to kind of keep it going. But at the end of the day, it's kind of the foundational philosophy that has helped me live properly. You got one shot at the title here in life, right? Don't mess it up by being a jerk. So that's just kind of how it is. That's how I look at it.
I think we've got the podcast title right there. Is you got one shot, don't mess it up by being a jerk. Rick, it's been a pleasure to have you on. Is there anything that you would want to leave the audience with? Is there anything, any more sort of nuggets of wisdom that you think, if given the platform, given the people I'm speaking to, I want them to hear this?
I just think that try not to be selfish, try not to be all about you. There's a song off of Let It Be called I Me Mine, George Harrison, right? And it's all about, I heard him once do an interview, and the song was about people that just think about what's in it for me, what's in it for me, what's in it for me all the time. I think that's right. Yeah, you got to get yours, right? You have to make enough money to pay your mortgage and put your kids through school and all those nice things, but you don't have to leave rubble behind you. You don't have to step on anybody's head to get where you want to go. And ultimately, if you do that, it will ultimately come back to get you. So there are ways to do it, but be patient and put in the hard work, and it probably will turn out for you. If that's how I look at it. It's taken a little while to get to this point, I think, and there's been some folks that I've dealt with in my past, William, that have been a little rough, but it shows me don't ever be like that. I'll never be like that. So that seems to have helped me out. So that's kind of it, I'm just a regular guy from New Jersey who just kind of gets through. But I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to talk to your audience, and I'm glad that you said my hair looked good, because that's very important.
Well, if that's all you leave with, Rick, I'm glad to leave you on a positive note. Like I say, I really, really appreciate you taking the time. I know you've got a busy schedule. This will definitely be useful for people. So very thankful, very grateful, and appreciate the hour we've had.
Cool. All right, buddy. All right. I'll talk to you soon.
Speak soon.
Thanks for listening to Leaders of Life Sciences. We hope you're leaving with fresh ideas and inspiration to lead with clarity and purpose. If you're hiring, building your leadership team, or thinking about your next move, we'd love to support you. You'll find everything you need to get in touch in the show notes. And if you enjoyed the show, please follow and share it with someone who'd find it valuable. Until next time, keep leading forward.